Back in 1978, Terry Nation gave us a sci-fi gem called Blake's 7, and let's just say it wasn't your typical good guys meet the bad guys story. Instead, we got Rog Blake, our brave and slightly too optimistic rebel leader who really believed he could overthrow the big bad Federation. Spoiler alert, he couldn't. And not just because the Federation was evil, oppressive and way too powerful, but because Blake himself was practically designed for doom.
You are not in Kansas anymore.
Let's be honest, from the start, Blake was never meant to win. Unlike other sci-fi heroes who ride off into the sunset after blowing up the Death Star or finding a resolution in the form of galactic diplomacy, Blake's fate was all but set the moment he decided his ideals were all he needed. Sure, being hopeful and inspiring is great, but Blake had a habit of letting that idealism blind him to pretty obvious dangers. You know that friend who stubbornly insists it'll all work out, even as the house catches fire around them? That's Blake, but on a galactic scale. When we first meet Blake in the pilot episode The Way Back, he's already in trouble. He's a confused, seemingly ordinary citizen who's been brainwashed by the oppressive Federation government into forgetting his revolutionary past. He soon learns he's been living a lie, his memories were erased, and his friends and fellow rebels were executed. Now Blake is framed for crimes he didn't commit and unjustly sentenced to exile to the prison planet Cygnus Alpha via the prison ship London. The Federation doesn't kill him outright for fear of making him a martyr, highlighting exactly how sinister and sophisticated the Federation's tactics are and how dangerously naive Blake can be. For most heroes, faith in humanity is a strength. For Blake, it's a blinking neon sign that says, "Exploit me here."
The charges against me are totally false. I am not guilty, therefore I offer no defence.
It's in transit to Cygnus Alpha where we meet his fellow prisoners, Kerr Avon, Villarestel, Jenna Stannis and others. Thrust together by circumstances rather than choice, these characters form the reluctant nucleus of what will become the rebellion's most wanted outlaws. When the London stumbles upon a mysterious abandoned alien ship, the Liberator, Blake seizes the opportunity. With its superior technology, teleport systems and sardonic onboard AI Zen, the Liberator becomes their base of operations. Throughout the first 2 seasons, Blake repeatedly shows us exactly why being an uncompromising idealist in a corrupt galaxy is a terrible idea. Take the episode Pressure Point for example. Blake decides to attack a key Federation installation on Earth. It's a symbolic move, a clear "take that" to the Federation. Great, right? Except Blake totally ignores practical considerations like the very real chance of getting everyone killed. Blake thinks symbolism alone will win hearts and minds, but symbolism doesn't stop lasers or prisons, something he seems weirdly reluctant to acknowledge.
The others have decided to go with me.
I thought they would. Not very bright.
Which brings us neatly to Kerr Avon, everyone's favourite cynical realist. Avon isn't just the guy throwing sarcastic one-liners from the sidelines, though let's admit he's brilliant at that. Avon is the voice of reason Blake desperately needs but consistently ignores. Avon's skepticism isn't just a personality quirk, it's a necessary counterbalance. In a way, he's the anti-Blake. Every time Blake charges off into yet another inconceived battle, Avon rolls his eyes and says in essence, "Are you seriously going to ignore reality again?" And Blake responds with something idealistic and vaguely inspiring, completely missing the point. Avon's warnings often come true, but Blake just shrugs them off, always convinced that next time it'll be different. It's like watching someone repeatedly stick their finger in an electrical socket, convinced that the shock will somehow fix the wiring. Blake never learns, never adapts, and never sees the bigger picture beyond his ideals. If Blake represents unyielding idealism, the Federation is the cold, reluctant force of authoritarian control, and it's terrifying precisely because it's so bureaucratic, efficient, and unrelentingly slick. At its heart is Serverland, the ever-composed Supreme Commander who embodies the Federation's cool cruelty. She's charming, ruthless, and always 10 steps ahead, able to twist law, war, and seduction into tools of statecraft.
That's against Bureau standing orders, Commissioner. Who do you think wrote those orders, Bull? I did. So do as I say, and do it now.
Then there's Travis, the brutal enforcer, to her strategist, a disfigured soldier obsessed with hunting Blake down. Where Servalan manipulates with elegance, Travis is a blunt instrument, violent, unhinged, and tragically outmatched by her ambition. Together they give the Federation a chilling duality, polished tyranny on one hand and sheer brute force on the other.
These are your orders.
Destroy Blake.
Depend on it.
Eventually, after 2 seasons, Gareth Thomas, the actor who portrayed Blake, decided to leave the show, along with Jenna, played by Sally Nivette. After the season 2 finale, 1 star, Blake and Jenna disappear from the narrative, leaving a massive power vacuum. The show, interestingly enough, didn't collapse without him. Instead, Blake's absence forced Blake 7 to evolve dramatically. Suddenly the focus shifted onto the pragmatic Avon, who took over as the de facto leader, albeit with significantly less idealism and a lot more dark humour and cynicism. With Avon at the helm, the series became even darker, grittier, exploring themes of distrust, moral ambiguity, and the harsh realities of a rebellion without clear moral guidance. Blake's idealistic vision faded, replaced by a pragmatic survival instinct that turned the crew into a collection of reluctant anti-heroes, trying and often failing to hold onto their humanity. The show continued for 2 more seasons, picking up a new crew along the way. Characters like Dana, a fierce and resourceful weapons expert, Tarrant, a cocky and former Federation pilot, joined the fight, bringing new dynamics and complications to the group. The series now focused more intensely on Avon's increasingly unstable leadership. Rather than uniting under a common goal of freedom and justice as they had under Blake, the new crew frequently clashed, struggled to cooperate, and often questioned their motives for continuing the fight against an almost unbeatable Federation. This era of Blake 7 was marked by shifting alliances, darkening plot lines, and morally ambiguous choices that challenged audiences' perceptions of heroism and villainy.
Villa? Villa, are you here? I need your help. I know how they did it, but I need your help. Please help me.
The series finale, aptly titled Blake, delivers the harshest betrayal of all. After being separated for years, Blake and Avon finally reunite. Instead of a joyful team-up, we get confusion, suspicion, and ultimately tragedy. By this point, we've seen Avon's leadership grow darker and increasingly paranoid, burdened by betrayals and losses along the way, and because Blake's rigid principles and naive trust have isolated him completely. Avon, desperate, cynical, and now deeply distrustful, misunderstands Blake's actions as betrayal and responds the only way he knows how, with brutal efficiency. Blake's idealism didn't just blind him, it made him vulnerable in the most devastating way possible. But let's not paint Blake as entirely innocent here. He also makes some morally questionable choices because of those very ideals. Take Star 1 for instance. Blake decides to destroy the Federation's central control system. A noble cause, right? Sure. Except that the control system also maintains essential services for billions of innocent people. Blake seems to excuse this as a necessary evil, but hang on, isn't Blake supposed to be the guy who's above that kind of compromise? Turns out even Blake can't live up to his own impossible standards. This contradiction doesn't make Blake stronger, it tears him apart, slowly and painfully. He spends the series caught between what he believes and what reality demands. As viewers, it's both fascinating and frustrating. We watch Blake struggle, we admire his courage, yet we wince at his obviously reckless choices. In the episode Pressure Point, Blake's belief in the righteousness and feasibility of his cause leads him to recklessly assault a heavily fortified Federation base. This results in tragic failure and loss, most notably the death of one of his most loyal crew members, Gan. These moments isolate him emotionally and psychologically, making him mistrustful and unclear in his actions. By the time of the finale, Blake's idealism has been battered so extensively that he's more cautious and even secretive. Blake acts cautiously, withholding information to protect himself and his cause. Avon sees this caution as suspicious and deceptive rather than protective. This misunderstanding is tragic because Avon genuinely believes Blake has betrayed him, prompting Avon to react violently and defensively, leading directly to Blake's death. Yet, even in the end, Blake has still been reckless, having placed his trust in the wrong person, Arlen, a Federation agent masquerading as a rebel. After everything he's been through, after all the betrayals, lies and manipulation, he still makes the same critical mistake from episode 1, believing too easily. Arlen manipulates him into thinking she's a fellow revolutionary, and Blake, desperate to rebuild something resembling the resistance he lost, welcomes her in. It's this misplaced trust that seals his fate. Arlen exposes Blake to Avon's crew, setting off the chain of confusion and paranoia that ends in Blake being shot. It's the final bitter proof that even after all the trauma and scars, Blake never truly learned how to protect himself from people who could use his ideals against him. His tragedy isn't just that he dies, it's that he dies the same way he lived, trusting someone he shouldn't have and paying the ultimate price for it. And that's exactly how the series dismantles the typical heroic rebel narrative. Usually rebellion stories end with triumph or at least some hope. Blake 7 says, "Hold my beer," and delivers a brutal lesson in realism instead. By the series' end, there's no triumph, no redemption, there is no hope. And to seal that nihilism, Blake isn't the only one who meets a tragic end. The finale pulls no punches. One by one, the rest of the crew is gunned down in a bleak, slow-motion shootout that's as shocking as it is inevitable. Each death is abrupt, brutal, and meaningless. Not the noble sacrifices of heroes, but the careless extermination of people who have simply run out of time, luck, and purpose.
Avon, it's me, Blake.
Have you betrayed us? Have you betrayed me?
In the end, Avon stands alone, surrounded by bodies, staring down Federation soldiers, gun raised, a crooked smile on his face. We never see the final shot, but we all know how it happens, how it ends. No speeches, no glory, just silence, a fitting end to a show that never believed in happy ones. Blake 7 does something rare. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that heroes aren't immune to reality. Idealism is noble, but can be dangerous if you intend to survive. The show asks tough questions like whether revolutionaries can truly maintain their purity, or if the mere act of rebellion inevitably corrupts them. Blake's story suggests the answer isn't comforting. Revolutionary heroes might start noble, but either they're corrupted or doomed by the very purity they champion. So what's the takeaway from Blake's journey? Maybe it's that unwavering idealism needs to be tempered by pragmatism. Or perhaps it's simpler, don't trust anyone too blindly, and always listen when your sarcastic sidekick warns you about impending doom. Ultimately, Blake 7 leaves us with a grimly entertaining but undeniably bleak lesson. In a corrupt galaxy, it's not just the villains you have to fear. Sometimes it's the heroes who can't accept reality, whose ideals blind them to consequences, who are the most dangerous to themselves and everyone around them. The Federation didn't doom Blake. He doomed himself, right from the start, simply by refusing to see the world as it truly was. Thanks so much for watching. If you're craving an extraordinary journey through realms unexplored, consider delving into universes directly out of my brain by checking out my sci-fi novels Black Milk and Delphine Descends. You can find more details in the description. Thanks for your support.